How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Lucky Trader NFT Show. I am your host, Preston Johnson, here in the studio with Ham. He is co-hosting and producing from the other side. Hope you had a good weekend. Hope things are going good. I know we want to recap a little bit at the end of this show what we discussed last week, Ham, but we have two guests. We have Vivek Ravishanker, who will be in about 15 minutes to discuss all things Web3, NFT, and fan-controlled football leagues specifically. But prior to that, we have Anthony Marinos, which you can go ahead and put him through now, from Charity Water, which I know Lucky Trader and Fractional are partnering with you guys, Anthony, for this charity, for the water. Give me a rundown. I actually am unaware about what it is exactly that you guys do, and then, how we can all help. We just want to spread the good word, and welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much, Preston, and thanks for having me on here to kick this off. We're just so grateful for Lucky Trader and Fractional support and the community getting behind what we do. So I can just give you kind of high level about who Charity Water is and what our mission is, and even what this effort is helping us achieve, which is really cool. But as you might have guessed from our name, we are focused entirely on bringing clean and safe water to people around the world. That is the charity's entire mission, and we really try to reinvent the charitable space while doing it. So kind of reinventing the way people think about charity while achieving this mission. So a big part of that is trying to partner with or collaborate with different innovative companies or communities across all sorts of industries, which is how we were able to connect with Lucky Trader and really getting involved in the NFT and wider crypto space. But Charity Water is now 15 years old. We turned 15 just at the end of last year. And in those 15 years, we've raised over $650 million. That's for both water and operations. Yeah. And that's helped us fund over 79,000 water projects in 29 different countries around the world. And that's helped bring clean water now to over 13 million people. When we get our latest impact numbers, we'll probably be closer to 15 million people served in 15 years, which is really, really incredible. So that's like high level, like where we're at, what we've done so far, and a few key parts of like how we've achieved this impact so far, and hopefully we'll achieve even greater impact in the future. It really revolves around a few key elements, one of which is our 100% model, which makes us very different. So 100% of all of our public donations that we receive go directly to the field. So anything that we're getting through fundraisers, through brand partnerships, the fundraiser that Lucky Trader is running right now, 100% of all of that money goes to water projects.
I have to interject then. How are you guys like 15 years self-sustaining? Well, I know here, forgive me for, I guess, being a little bit naive. You hear about nonprofits, this and that, but like generally, that's tough if you're giving 100% of all donations to the actual water.
Yeah.
So like, how do you guys make it work? Like, I'm just curious, I guess, a little bit more on behind the scenes a little bit.
No, that's a great question. And it is a good point and good one to think about. We are very lucky in that we have a group of private donors that we have lovingly dubbed the Well, because we're a sucker for water puns around here. And so the Well actually funds all of our operational expenses. So it's probably now about 130, 135 individuals and families, and even a few companies that donate specifically to the quote unquote boring stuff. I always joke that it's pretty cool to get paid. So I'm very glad that they're here supporting us, paying our salaries, covering the laptop that I'm talking to you on now and stuff like that. But it's a really amazing opportunity that they provide our average donors, who can just be sure that even when they give $5, $10, a few $100s on a friend's fundraiser, or just join our monthly giving program this spring, that all of that money is going to clean water. So it's a really unique
It's
model.
incredible. Yeah. I mean, I know sometimes you get the private donations, but the fact that it's enough and you guys have a system that's efficient to sustain ops. Obviously, you guys are doing a great job. More specifically, what are the details on the Lucky Trader fundraiser? How many more days are left? Like, how long is it running? Anything in that regard that we can do to help spread the word a little bit more?
Yeah, well, it just kicked off fairly recently, and it's something that they've been promoting on their site, on social. It's gone really well so far. It looks like there's already been 9 or 10 contributors, and that's amounted to, I was looking at it before, it was about 1.74 ETH, somewhere around there, that people have contributed directly. It's really cool because Lucky Trader is, Charity Water's been very open-minded in terms of accepting crypto. We have our wallets listed on charitywater.org/crypto.
Were there any extra hoops that you had to jump through to make that work on your guys' end?
For us to accept crypto?
Yeah.
For us, no, it's actually, we've been accepting Bitcoin since 2014. Although us, just like maybe 99% of the other people who have toyed around with Bitcoin since then, didn't save it.
Yeah.
But now, actually, if you go to charitywater.org/crypto or even charitywater.org/Bitcoin, you'll see that we started a water trust this time around. So we're actually holding Bitcoin through that trust through 2025 in the hopes of growing it over time and having an even bigger impact with those contributions. And we already have over 100 ETH in that. But for the Lucky Trader fundraiser so far, it's been really awesome with them and Fractional, where that ETH, that accounts for now about $5,000 or so that's been raised, a little bit more than that. And that will help bring clean water to 135 people so far. So on average, it's about $40 to bring clean water to one person. And that's meant to really be indefinitely based on.
I was going to ask, it's $40 for one person to have clean water theoretically for the rest of their life.
Yeah, that's the hope, right? As long as we know that projects can break down, and we often have our teams that we work with in the field fixing those projects, looking into the sustainability of it. We even have a pretty slick sensor pilot that we're working through, where it's almost like a check engine light for a water project. So imagine getting a notification that's like, hey, this well is going to break down in 3 weeks. You might want to get it checked out. That's a goal that we've been really working through in a program that we have. So outside of that, it's like our projects are really meant to stand the test of time, especially since they're, localized to these smaller communities. Yeah.
How many more days left on this particular fundraiser?
I don't know. It's been running for just a little bit. Yeah, I can't remember how long it's going to go for, but we can make sure that we confirm that and we share that after. Yeah. But it's been going really well so far, and we really are huge fans of Lucky Trader and Fractional and different members of the community that really help make this happen. I mean, it really all came from our friend, I believe our mutual friend, Drew Dinkmeyer, who's been a huge Charity Water supporter for a while and has really helped us. He's fundraised for us several times in a row now, several years in a row, and he's helped facilitate so many really strong introductions like this one to Lucky Trader that is now led to this cool fundraiser. So
that's excellent. Really yeah, shout out to Drew and Lucky Trader and Fractional. We'll make sure we get when the dates are getting closer, I got to retweet about it and get some more publicity out there. Last question for you. And you're probably going to hate me that I'm asking because you guys don't care.
No, go.
Anything that you can take, right? It helps. But is there a goal between you guys and Lucky Trader? Like, is there a goal number you're trying to reach, or are you guys just so grateful?
Good question. So you know what? The not necessarily a goal for this per se, but the numbers that we tend to focus on, the $40 one is one of them, right? $40 is another person with clean water. So it's always good to think about that. But every $10,000 really equates one project for a community. Okay. So when we, that often is a number that a lot of the companies and organizations and communities that support us keep in the back of their mind. Is they're like, if we can get to that goal, if we can hit 10K or more, we'll be funding the equivalent of one water project for an entire community, which is really
That's
cool.
amazing. We'll make sure we get to 10K. I won't let it not get to 10K. When the time comes, when it gets closer, we'll make it happen. Hey, Anthony, thanks for your time. We appreciate the love.
Thank you so much, Preston.
Work. Yeah,
man. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Excited to hear more about fan-controlled football, because that's pretty wild stuff.
Sooner or later, we'll have Charity Water will probably be running a team in 2025. And you guys' treasury's worth, $100 million.
I like the way you think, Preston. I like the way you think.
All right, man. Take it easy.
All right.
Appreciate the time.
Thanks.
All right, I'm going to give Vivek a heads up that we're good to. Maybe he's listening already. So if you are, feel free to come on. Send him the link over. By the way, I'll have to have him correct me if I butchered his last name. I went with Ravishanker. So, Vivek, if you're listening, feel free to come in and correct me. Quan, who's also in the studio right now, one of my producers for the sports show I was doing regularly last year. I'm usually pretty good with names, but there was one QB, the transfer from Oregon, that went to man. We asked the Oregon fan, and I was like sure that it was right. I watched a YouTube video, and of course, the one YouTube video I checked it on, the announcers were totally wrong too. And so now, ever since then, I'm like conscious about it. Was he able to join yet? No. Okay, I gave him a heads up. In his head, he's thinking 4:45, so we got 2 or 3 minutes. We'll keep an eye out for him. But
I think you did good on the name.
Okay, thank you.
And it's good to hear, this kind of perspective. I've been thinking a lot about perspective, and just we get lost in the NFT space and this kind of wild game we're playing sometimes. And it's good to think about some different efforts like that. And it's interesting that he mentioned Drew. He's obviously a big fantasy football DFS star, essentially. And, it sounds like he started that back then, and that's carried forward into the ethos of Lucky Trader and what they're doing. So it's nice.
I had that thought. Think about this for a second, actually, not to praise Drew, which, by the way, we have a lot of similar acquaintances outside of Twitter. I've actually never met Drew. I'm sure we'll make it happen one day if you're listening, Drew. But just doing that simple thing at the time, he thought, hey, with some fantasy people, we can do some good, donate to, charity water, get some clean water to people. Somehow that's shifted now. And he didn't foresee some NFT space and Web3 space. Right. And now it's carried over to that. So just planting the seed, 4 or 5 years ago, whenever it was, and just continuing it until now has now transferred into this whole other industry and sector, which it's just great for what we're seeing. I'm sure there'll be plenty more opportunities on our side to help out and contribute to things like this.
Yeah, no question. It looks like we got Vivek, so I'm going to bring him in here.
Beautiful. Vivek, what's up, man? Did I butcher your last name, or is Ravishanker pretty close?
No, you're pretty close.
Beautiful. Feel free to correct me at any point, but I'm glad I was.
No worries
close.
At all.
We had side bets.
Let me try and figure out. I'm on my phone. Let me just figure out how to get the volume right, because it's coming in soft.
No problem. No problem at all. Respect the phone game, though. We haven't had too many guests just calling in straight from the phone. I like it.
You know what? I can hear you fine.
You're good? Okay.
Yep.
Beautiful. Well, welcome to the show. Welcome to Lucky Trader NFT show. You have, from what I gather, a pretty long history and background story that I am not familiar with. We've never spoken until the last few days as we were kind of prepping for this show a little bit. My producer, Ham, he talked to me offline. He's like, oh, he's the guy that was on Jeopardy a few times. He'd heard about you. He's like, he's a total degen in the NFT space. You're a co-owner of the fan-controlled football league team, one of them. So we'll get into all of this, but you got to start from the beginning, just a background, whether it's schooling into your first few jobs and just how you've kind of gotten to where you are.
Sure. Sounds good. Glad to be here. So, starting with schooling, I was an applied math major, Harvard, class of 07.
Oh.
Went back to Harvard Business School, class of 12. As a consultant for a while, I ran corporate analytics teams, but I've been a freelance consultant for the last 5 or 6 years, mostly helping companies with either pricing strategy or helping like venture capital and private equity funds decide what to buy, basically, by conducting market due diligence.
How many of your hours a day would you say are focused on that now versus NFT and Web3 stuff?
I bill probably like an average of 30 hours a week these days, as
Okay.
opposed to somewhere between 40 and 50 before NFTs. I can't really take a full freight right now of like day job stuff, as I would call it, right? Because there's just so much degenning to do, and I just feel a little guilty if I miss like a juicy opportunity because I was doing day job stuff.
Yeah, no, that's how we all are, man. I left a sports gig last year at ESPN. I was like, I have to prioritize some flexibility to trying a few more things out in this space. So I don't blame you at all. And if you miss stuff, you're just tilted anyways, and it's like lose-lose. So I'm with you 100%. Give us the background. You probably are tired of talking about this, but you were on Jeopardy. I believe you won 2 of the shows. How did you get on? Were you like someone that just were actually watching it as a fan, as a kid, just kept applying? I know guys that are really sharp try to get on every year and just never have a chance. So just give us a little background on that.
Yeah, so I was on the show, I guess it's like 5.5 years ago now, in 2016. And the way I got on, and I think it's still how it goes now, there's an online audition process in which you answer, I think it's like 50 questions, and you have like 15 seconds each. So it's like maybe 10 minutes or so, and it's all general knowledge. They don't hold you to the whole like phrase it in the form of a question thing. So the answer to like who went one of the questions was like who went 73-9 in
Oh yeah.
2014, was it? Whatever the year the Warriors did it, right? So the answer is the Warriors. It doesn't have to be like who is the Golden State Warriors.
Yep.
Right. So you go through that process. I think they grade it, but I don't think there is I don't think you're force ranked at that point. I think it's just they throw out the people who did badly, and if you did above a certain level, I think maybe if you get like 40 out of the 50 right, maybe. And they're easier than the average question on the show too. So it's not like if somebody's not getting 80% of the questions on the TV show, they shouldn't do this. Like you'll be fine. Then you go to a live audition. Mine was in New York City. And what they do is, first of all, they give you a written version of a similar test to the online test. I think that's just like cheating detection. So they just make sure, like, if you got around 40 on the first one, you don't get like 25 on the second one, right? That kind of thing. And then they do a little practice game. And that's for 2 reasons. One is to make sure you're not like a weirdo. You can be trusted to be put on stage if you get the call. So they run you through like interview stories too, right? So they'll be like, tell us about, I don't know, the time you went to your grandma's house or something. Well, whatever those Jeopardy stories are, which are, and mine included, mostly pretty lame, right? But then they also give you like the buzzer system, and they coach you through that process, and they want to see people who are coachable. So it's like you may be off by like 100 milliseconds right off the jump, but they want to see if they coach you, do you start getting right with the timing? Because what you don't want is somebody who's like super smart, but then they get to the show and they're a disaster, and so they never end up buzzing in correctly. That's just a bad outcome for everybody, right?
Yeah, they kind of have to mold at least someone that's sustainable on each of the 3 or 4 buckets you need to hit. So I know someone that's gotten to the interview process. Sorry, Aaron, if you're listening, twice, and he's probably, I've seen him in Las Vegas, in like suites in Las Vegas, go heads up against other people watching Jeopardy live, and it's whoever says it first just gets tally. And like the guy, he reads the question faster than like anything I've ever seen. He just sees the screen and he already knows the answer. Like incredible, but he gets the interview process, I think he said 2 times, and he hasn't gotten through. So maybe it has something to do with are we going to really put this guy on TV or not?
Or he needs to work on his
there's
buzzer
also
game.
just like a probabilities thing, right? Like it's not like they have a very perfect sieve for ranking us and figuring out who's best. It's probably who had a gut feel that day that somebody was. I wouldn't. And the advice I give people is just keep trying. It doesn't really take that long, right? It takes an hour to take the test, maybe like 2, especially if you live in one of the cities to do the tests. Like, it was not hard for me to get to New York, so easy enough.
Right on. A little good information, Ham, when you want to tackle Jeopardy next year after you retire from the NFT space. let's switch gears to Fan Controlled Football League. For those that haven't heard of it before, it's really interesting. I haven't invested myself in any form or fashion, but I've paid attention to it a little bit on the side. One of my producers asked, is Johnny Manziel still in the league? I'm not sure if he's lasted or not, but I believe he played a little bit last year at least. Tell us how you were introduced to the league itself. You're a co-owner of one of the teams. Tell us which team, just kind of that whole process.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so you correctly described the first season of Fan Control Football. So that was last year. There were 4 teams. I actually goofed around with it too. Like I downloaded the app, I voted on the plays and all that stuff. I was following the Glacier Boys, which was Quavo's team.
Okay.
So the previous season had nothing to do with NFTs. It was like 4. It was 4 teams. Like it had celebrity co-owners. It had like notable degen co-owners, and then they also through Republic did almost like a mini IPO for each of the 4 teams to buy a share of the teams.
Got it. How many people
so they did
do you
a
think?
season
How
with the
many
4
owners are there
teams.
for your team total? Do you have a number?
Oh, so our ownership structure is a little bit different now with these 8 teams. So what happened for this season
Okay.
is they brought 4 more on, and each one is representative of like an NFT community. So the one everyone's going to know in your audience is Bored Ape, right? Bored Ape has a team. Another team is co-owned by Crypto888 and Steve Aoki, the DJ.
Knights of Degen, I believe, have a team as well.
Yep, Knights of Degen has a team. So that's like Drew Austin, Jack Settleman, and they have like 10 people who are co-owners. I think Tiki Barber and Rondé Barber are co-owners as well on that team.
Nice.
And then ours is for the Gutter Cat Gang NFT, which is the fourth one that has a team. So that's how I got linked up with that, because I'm one of the larger holders of that NFT. So the 5 owners of ours that are like part of the Gutter Cat Gang community, the one I would guess most of your viewers would know is Jamal Anderson, who was on the 98 Falcons, Pro Bowler, Dirty Bird. maybe the most famous touchdown celebration ever.
Yeah, it should be.
So he is he's a Gutter Cat Gang holder and is like is big in the community. So he was definitely going to be a part of it. Plus the Fan Control Football League, the arena's in Atlanta, so it's kind of his backyard in a manner of speaking, right? And then we've got 4 people from the community. One is goes by King Blackboard. You know how it is with NFTs. Not everybody's doxed, so I'm probably just going to call them by their NFT names, right? I'm the only one who's fully doxed, besides Jamal. So you got a guy called King Blackboard. So yeah, if you see that, he's the guy with the crown and the gold, right? Yep. To his left is Dr. DiCaprio, or Leo DiCaprio. Up top left, that's Jamal Anderson. We actually have in the Gutter Cat Gang, one of our species has a Jamal Anderson jersey trait. So that's nice. Like that's actually that's like an NFT. That's not him just putting his jersey on there. The guy who's a CryptoPunk there, he's Spotty Wi-Fi. He is the first NFT rapper. He basically dropped an album as an NFT, like a rap record, and made like a couple $100,000 doing that. But also it's just like a degen like us. In addition to being like actually talented,
the theme song,
and then bottom right is me. That's one of my Gutter Cats.
Oh, okay. You had to choose one. You went with the glass. I like the shades; they're nice. Now I was gonna say, Spotty Wi-Fi wrote the theme song for us for Punk's comic when we first dropped that back in May. So he was in the space really early. He was there at Christie's, I believe, in like a truck, blasting his songs, driving around New York City. So. Shout out to him. So this is interesting. Now getting kind of to the part that maybe speaks to others. It's like you have these teams that are fan controlled. You said you actually last year, a little bit at least, dove in where you were logging into the app, voting on which plays to run, what's going to happen. What was your experience like? Just be honest about it too, whether you're an owner or not. It kind of just... If there's things that can be improved, like we want to talk about those. If there's things that have been nailed that you think everyone's loving, we'll talk about that too. So just what was your general experience like last year as you dove in?
So I'll start with the easy part, right? Like, it's fun and it's different than the NFL, right? Like the NFL, you're just watching. Maybe you're doing fantasy football, maybe you've got DFS sweat, whatever, right? But like, you are just watching, right? So what I found to be the single coolest thing about it last year, and it'll be the same this year. I'm sure they'll have like minor improvements to the UI and stuff like that, but high level it'll be the same, right? Which is, first of all, it's 7-on-7, just so you're aware, right? So it's not the full 11. It's a 3-man line, 7-on-7. Most of the special team stuff is gone. You just go 2-point conversion style, right? So it's like a lot of stuff done in the interest of making it just like fast and more action packed. It's like almost like arena football in a lot of ways. But anyway, so what I thought was coolest is like, right, your team comes to the line on offense for a critical play. You in the app, so like there are two main ways you can engage with the stuff as it's happening. One was on Twitch, and two is through their app, like the iOS app, right? So what I would be doing is I'd be watching the game on maybe like half my iOS screen, and on the other half, it would pull up 3 plays. Like they look almost the way they look in Madden, right? You'll see like where's the halfback going to go, where's the X wide receiver going to go, where's the Z receiver going to go, right? And you could pick between those 3 plays, and whichever one the most fans voted on was what they would actually call in the huddle.
So how many fans do you think or do you know are voting on the plays, more or less?
It was on the order of like hundreds for most plays most of the time.
So here's my question. In this season, I'm not sure if that's gone up, if they're getting more engagement. Eventually, it's going to be thousands, maybe tens of thousands. At what point does a user's vote feel insignificant? And is there something, or are they incorporating something to try to give certain voters more value proposition or significance in the voting?
Yep. So they already had done that to some degree in season 1. There was no NFT or anything like that.
Right.
So all the gamification was through you would gain almost like experience points. I think it was called fan IQ points. And I believe the higher your fan IQ score, the more weighting you got for the votes you made. Basically to reward you for being engaged, right? So it'd be very hard to be getting the same weight as me if you hadn't watched the first 4 games, right? When the playoffs came around.
Understood. And if they kept that
and this
system
time
in
it
general?
will be weighted, I believe, for the NFT teams, at least partly based on how many of the NFTs you hold. So I've got 8 of the Gutter Cat Gang NFTs. I believe I will get more voting power. Sorry, for leaving aside the ownership piece of it, right? If I were just kind of watching at home and on the app, I believe I would get more voting power than somebody with just 1. And somebody with 30, I think, would get more than me.
That's team-based then. So another team, say the Bored Ape or whatever, they can do their own kind of setup, how they prefer. Mm-hmm. You guys are just, they're doing Gutter Cats. Yeah.
But actually right now I can min other teams too if I want.
Okay.
I think you'd have to be a pretty huge degen to want to like influence other teams' play calling. Like, you could in theory.
Like, it's 4th down, let's run it up the middle. Like, I don't. There's. That's interesting. That might be a thing one day. A championship game, there's money on the line, and someone's buying a bunch of NFTs in the secondary market to influence negatively the other way. Ham, you have Gutter Cats, right?
Yeah, I'm gang. So gang.
Have you even looked at this yet?
Yeah, I've seen it on Twitter. I looked at it. I like this idea of like, fixing the games by buying the other NFTs. This is very gutter strategy. We might need to like get together and discuss this.
Yeah.
But no, I'm happy to learn more about it today.
So here's my final question on this, specifics of this for you, Vivek, in general. Are there things that you guys are doing internally as the Gutter Cat Gang team going forward that you can share? And is there anything just as the Fan Controlled Football League in general that they're planning on doing? Like, what's the future like for this? And how can we spread the word?
Totally. So let me start with the league in general. Okay. The first thing I would suggest is there's 2 things you can do now. One is evaluate the NFT and decide if you want to buy them. And if you want to buy them, hopefully for our team, the Gutter Cat Gang, they're called Ballers, Ballerz. It's a lot like a lot of NFT projects that you've heard about, in the sense that there's like kind of a base. That base is a football player, and on top of them is like a lot of traits that have been designed, right? So you might have like the gold helmet, or you might have the, I don't know, the Cincinnati Bengals. It won't be an NFL team, but you get what I'm saying, right? So that's one thing you can do. That's at fcf.io is the whole page, is the site for the whole league. On the top, you should be able to click on Ballers and get pretty quickly to where you're going. This is all on Ethereum, so you would need the cost is 0.1776 ETH per NFT, and again, yeah, you just need to connect your wallet the usual way, like minting anything else on Ethereum. You can also buy them on secondary, on OpenSea or the other marketplaces like LooksRare, etc. So that's one thing, and then the second thing is that the league starts in April. I believe it's the second week of April is when things will get going. So I would encourage people to, just check us out. Easy enough to follow the Fan Controlled Football account. You can follow me and the other owners of the teams. We'll trust me, we'll be talking about it plenty, especially as we close in on early April. As for the Gutter Cat Gang specifically, so right now, the big thing for each of the 4 new teams is we're in the process of coming up with names. So once we vote on a team name and we get some of that going, we will start. In my mind, there's like a few pieces here, right? One is the on-field product that'll happen over time in the same way the first season happened, with like a draft, with free tryouts, with free agent signings in the middle of the season, etc. Right? Then there is the I would say like the marketing, the merchandising, all that stuff. I think the main gate to that is getting the name down, and I think from there we will start using some of our resources, right? There's a large stable of artists who work with the Gutter Cat Gang on all sorts of collaborations and things. So we'll come up with some, I would think at a minimum, we'll have some dope merch for everybody sooner than later. So there'll be lots of ways to participate, whether it's through the NFTs, whether it's through watching the games, or perhaps acquiring some of the merch. So I actually got, from the first season, I decided to buy a pack of the cards they put out. They're pretty high quality.
Oh. I did not know there were cards.
That's cool. Like they did, I think it was a pack of 60 or something like that. And one of the cards you were guaranteed to get had a game-worn jersey. Like, you know how they do with football cards? They'll do like a little slice of the jersey goes into the card.
Yeah.
So it was that kind of stuff. It was cool. I mean, obviously it's not like you're getting like a Peyton Manning card. None of these guys are that famous, but it's cool. Like, if you've been watching them all season, it's pretty cool.
I was gonna ask.
So I got a couple guys from good cards of guys from the Glacier Boys. I was happy to do that. One of the guys, David Pindell, was from UConn. I'm from Connecticut, so I was happy to get one of those.
You had a connection there. What is the general talent level then? At least, and has it improved, do you think, from last year going into the second season coming up? Outside of Johnny Manziel, I don't know of another name off the top of my head. Is a lot of just college athletes that didn't make it pro?
Yeah, that's the way to think about it. It's almost everybody has played D1. Everyone has, I'd say I can think of dozens of guys who were in and around the league last season that got a cup of coffee in the league. And if you expand that to include, Europe and Canada, it's a lot of them. Okay, but yeah, so it's exactly it's the tier of guys just below making the NFL.
So my main thought now, just in general, is for this to really work long term and to be sustainable, you need to have players that, and the product, and you mentioned this briefly, you alluded to it, but the product needs to be good, which means you need to have players that are actually pretty good that are playing, and we need to be able to incentivize them enough to actually keep them there, to keep playing, and then you can start getting ties between teams to certain players that are there for multiple seasons, or opens up trading possibilities with like players and names that actually matter. What are what's the Fan Control Football League doing in general to incentivize the players currently? Where do NFTs come into the mix there? Is there anything that you have that you can share in that regard?
There's nothing I can share there for season 2 with any confidence. I've heard some things, but
That's fine.
I don't think that NFTs will be like the main means of compensation for players. That's not my understanding of how this is going to work.
So then, how
That's
would you
mostly
think
for
that?
fan interaction at this point. However, like, I suppose you never know down the road, and if that's a way to get almost like, I know it's very important to say NFTs are not securities, but if we want to get something that feels a little like equity, like compensation for players, that's a great way to do it, right?
Yeah,
Is
no, for
some
sure.
tokenomics around that? I don't. You see what I'm saying, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
there's all sorts of stuff down the road. I don't think I'm speaking out of school to say that one day their intention is for there to be a fan controlled football like video game.
Oh,
And
that would be cool.
given how these products build out in Web3 world, I've got to imagine that'll have some play to earn or tokenomics component. And I could see how that would work in terms of what do the players get for their NIL, right?
Yep. I remember for
So,
the
yeah,
longest time.
I would think you'll see a lot of that down the road. I don't think any of it's coming with the beginning of season 2.
Yeah, no, that's no problem. We have to
Yep.
think longer term than that, anyways. But I remember for the longest time, they didn't use on EA Sports, like NCAA football was one of the games I played the most in my life, and they couldn't use the names because they weren't actually paying the athletes. In this case, if they were to do some sort of play to earn component in game on chain that actually incentivizes the players themselves, especially their performance within a game or whatever, that's really interesting. Actually, I hadn't considered that. That's a good one. Obviously, it takes a few years to get any of that set, but that would be fun if you're.
Everyone I've
Yeah.
interacted with in FCF world is pretty leading edge. They are, obviously they started with a somewhere between Web 2 and Web 3 funding model, right? They did crowdsource
Yeah.
equity and all that. And there was no NFT Web 3 stuff in season 1, but they are clearly like pretty leading edge compared to, Roger Goodell and the league office. So I'm sure they'll be more creative about compensation schemes and more generous about NIL and non-cash compensation
Yes.
arrangements.
Your point.
But that's my guess. I don't know the answer.
Your point is taken about Roger Goodell, but also it's not hard to be more forward thinking than Roger Goodell. I'll just leave it at that. Vivek, thank you for your time. I'm going to make sure, Ham, do you have any final questions before we let him go that you wanted to get out there?
I do.
Okay, we got a little bit more.
Also, though, I wanted to point out here that I believe Vivek's cat is the number 2 ranked rarity cat in this collection. Is that right, Vivek?
He might not have been able to hear you because he's listening through his mobile from far away, and you like to talk a little bit quieter than I do. Vivek, he was giving your cat some love. Yeah, number 2.
I apologize. I think you're looking at the rarity rankings for the cats, right?
Yeah. You're number 2.
Yeah, that one's mine. And if you go down to number 32, that one's mine too. It's the least rare 9 trait, but it is still a 9 trait. Second row all the way on the right.
So my question is, in terms of Gutter Cat Gang, okay, we had a town hall last night. There's a lot going on. It turns out that this project was not only a successful project, but they're making impressive moves and impressive deals and just big plans for 2022. So can you give us your opinion? Like, what are you most excited about right now about Gutter Cat Gang?
Yeah. So you're right. There's quite a bit going on in Gutter Cat Gang world. If I were to name like the one thing I'm the most excited about, it is now probably the introduction of tokenomics and the gang token. I think, I think we've done a great job with like the 2021 state of the world, which is like, let's build a brand, let's get people excited about it, let us become one of the premier profile pick projects around. And then I think 2022 is about I would say adding some of these features that provide liquidity, that create like a full self-contained ecosystem, right? Like we will have a marketplace in which you don't have to worry about OpenSea, Looksrare, or any of that stuff. You can transact in everything related to the Gutter Cat gang up to and including our metaverse stuff using our token, which I think is cool. I think that's where we're headed. So I think there'll only be a handful of people who will be able to claim that at the end of 2022. I think it's probably, if don't hold me to this, my best guess is it'll be the apes, it'll be us, and it'll be the cool cats, where that is the case. So I think we'll have some great differentiation against other projects, and I think like that'll work hand in hand with our content strategy, right? So I think we're less focused on like building, Pokemon style video games, which personally I'm glad about. It's not really my vibe, and I don't really want to spend like all day grinding for coins. But I think one thing that Gutter's going to do is there will be a relatively low investment way to do play to earn, and it's going to be a little bit more social than a lot of these other options. So that's how I interpreted the guidance we've gotten so far about the Gang Wars token stuff, which is like there will be 4 factions. They will compete in some way, but it's not just like who spends 13 hours a day clicking a button the way the Apes mobile game was, right? Which look, due respect to them, I got the sense some people had fun with that, but like I don't have 13 hours a day to like click buttons.
I had no idea until just now, Ham and Vivek. The floor for Gutter Cats is 7. I have one. Yep. I'm pretty sure it's one that's a jersey. I don't remember if it's MJ or Kobe, but
you have a MJ?
One of those. That's how bad I am at this. I got one early on. Odds are it's a Kobe one, and I'm looking, and the cheapest Kobe one's 48 ETH right now listed. Somehow I missed I just have it sitting there, but like this happens because I bought a bunch of stuff last year and don't have time to pay attention to all of the actual cool stuff that's happening. I had no idea the floor was 7 ETH. I feel.
I will say one thing.
Yeah.
I will say one thing. If you've got a Gutter Cat and you literally have not touched it in several months, you may have an unclaimed rat, which would be another like 10 grand.
Oh, are the rats like 3 ETH or something?
The rats are floor almost 2, but like you get the randomization, you might get a really good one, right?
Oh, right.
So I'm saying with the lotto value,
on
average, it's like 2.5, 3.
Yeah. The EV. I probably have not claimed the rat. There's like almost certainly I have not.
So there you go. Having me on the show just made you a few grand. So.
Yeah, thanks for that. Take it easy. That's fantastic. Anyway, Ham, anything else you wanted to go for it?
Yeah, just one more question in regards to the NFT market as a whole. Where do you think we are right now with, where ETH level where it is at 3K and the Super Bowl coming and all of these factors? What's your general sentiment of the NFT marketplace?
I think I'm more bullish than most people seem to be. I'm hearing this recurring theme that like whatever the Bored Apes do defines the rest of the market. I think that's like convenient narrative storytelling. I don't think that's really how things work. The thing I will say around that is that helps us because I think what's going to happen is people have like ludicrously high expectations for what's going to happen on Super Bowl Sunday. And I think Super Bowl Sunday is going to just be like commercials for crypto platforms that happen to have some NFTs in them because that's what's compelling. That's going to be a compelling reason for new people to onboard onto crypto. And I think people are going to feel that that's like that plus maybe a Bored Ape being on a screen when Snoop Dogg is on.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that that's going to be enough for people. And I think people are thinking that's going to crash the NFT market. I think that, no, the day after the Super Bowl is like, great. By the way, if some people decide to put their stuff up for sale, I'll be the first one in line to buy because I don't think it's a long-term signal of anything. I think it's just people had weird expectations about one event and it didn't go quite the bull case, right? So
Right.
that'd be my guess very short term, just because that's coming up Sunday. I think longer term, the catalysts are as follows, right? I think we are yet to see what happens with one of these ecosystem tokens that is meant to do a lot, right? Like I think, say what you will, I think like the most successful one arguably so far has been the Cyberkongs, the banana token, right? Out of the NFT world. And that was not really usable for much. It was usable for a while to mint more of these, I think, to mint more of the baby Kongs. And then it was useful for basically nothing. You could, I think, change the name of your Kong, which who cares, right? But a bunch of ecosystem tokens are going to come out with like incredibly lofty expectations. So the price behavior of the ape coin, the milk coin for cool cats, the gang coin for us, that's going to be where the rubber hits the road, I think. And if those things underperform, then I would consider running like hell, or at least de-risking somewhat. But again, you'll be trying to do it when everyone else is trying to do it, because I'm pretty sure everyone has the same opinion on that as I do. Like if ApeCoin especially fails to meet expectations from a price perspective, it's gonna be a shit show, and that's everywhere in the market. That's like all NFTs.
Yeah, I can't envision a world where they underperform and somehow there isn't some sort of bear season after that following it. So I'm with you there. I also kind of agree, actually, that everyone's building this narrative of what's going to happen at the Super Bowl, what's going to happen right after because of it. And it's just an event that's cool. Like, it doesn't have to be this like signal day that changes the scope
it's
of
a marketing
history.
Yeah,
it's all it is. So
and then I think there's some regulatory stuff down the road, but I really don't see. I don't see any challenges in this horizon. Just, everyone just pay your taxes. Don't be an idiot.
Pay your taxes and donate
I
to
think
charity.
People
water.
have largely look. The good thing is that this market operates on little to no leverage, just the way it's structured, and it's extremely challenging to short anything, right? You basically can't short most of this stuff. Sorry. To be clear, you can short Ethereum. You just can't short like gutter cats.
There's probably some platforms being built or that exist where you can somehow someone has collateral, posts their NFT, and you like short the price in some form or fashion. I know Keyboard Monkey is already rallying around one of the bets he made earlier, where the CryptoPunk floor price, I believe, come May 31st this year, will be under $270,000 in USD. If you can find someone to, I think it's a $500,000 bet that he has. But if you can find people to take side bets, you can find ways to short the market. But most people, like you said, which is interesting because you compare it to crypto, as far as like Bitcoin and Ethereum, just like back in the day, right after the 2017 bull, everyone was firing on leverage, and it just like immediately wiped a big chunk of people that were just getting into it out. And in this case, at least the stakes are lower in that sense, where you're not firing on high variance leverage that can knock people out, at least not as quickly. So hopefully that's a positive for sustainability long term.
I think that's right. I think the related thing here is, boy, I'm rooting hard for ETH to USD to just be sideways for a while. That's especially at these levels around 3K, would be wonderful. It would do wonders for the NFT market. I'm seeing people come off the sidelines now that feel much more comfortable trading, especially in like lower value stuff. With gas, I'm seeing gas at like 60 when I try and do stuff at 10 in the morning, and I'm like, I don't remember the last time. And if we get a sideways week of ETH to USD, could even be lower. That's cause for excitement. I think a lot of developers of like lower end projects are feeling pretty good right now, and trying to very politely, without seeming like they're pumping, they're trying to remind people that now is the time to come into like 0.2 ETH projects. So.
And it's interesting, and we'll end it with this. We'll let you go. I know we don't want to keep you here forever. We appreciate your time. But in general, the whole cliche, we're early, there's only X percent of people that even have a wallet on OpenSea, however many hundreds of thousands of people pre-signed up for Coinbase NFTs, which will be coming likely later this year. you're going to need a lot of those lower end projects. If there's going to be an audience that's just getting into the market, they can't afford even a gutter cap most often, right? Like more often than not, they're not going to be putting in $20K plus to a project, let alone even some of the more blue chip projects. So there needs to be something there for sustainability in the lower end projects. I guess it's basically a message of don't give up hope if you're a creator or an artist out there. Like just keep doing your thing. Try to make it happen.
I think things are going to get easier for those folks. I think there are a bunch of low and no code minting platforms coming online. So actually, I'm talking to somebody in a little bit about TokenFi, which is one of those platforms. So it should both get easier on the creation side in terms of both cost and complexity. And yeah, there's hopefully going to be more demand for those things. Obviously, gas price is the big variable there. If I think whether it's Coinbase or not, I don't know how sophisticated the average Coinbase NFT wallet is going to be, but I still don't think. I think when they see the receipt and it's $150 NFT and there's an $80 gas fee, I mean, I don't think you have to be that sophisticated to think this is probably not sustainable.
Yeah, it's a little high vigorish to pay for an NFT, especially if it's someone that's like, oh, I'll put a few $100s into it to start, and it's not going to work. Cool. Yeah. Hey, Vivek, just let people know where they can find you on Twitter, Discord if you want.
Yeah,
wherever.
So on Twitter, I am a big thing badly. And other than that, come into Guttercat Gang Discord. I'll throw one plug if you don't mind. Two partners and I have done a derivative project, but it's like a high-end one-of-one kind of derivative project called Board Gutter Apes, which is like, it's got the shell of the apes, but this guy designed a whole bunch of new traits. And the traits we do use from the gutter cats and the bored apes are ones that all of us own. So you quickly saw a few of my cats, but I've got like 110 gutter assets. So we kind of use stuff mostly from that library. And one of my fan control football co-owners, King Blackboard's library, to put together some interesting stuff. So hope you guys will check that out, boardgutterapes.com.
Beautiful. Thanks for that. We'll take it
Cheers.
easy, man. Talk to you later on.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. I saw that on his Twitter earlier. I didn't have time to click and look into it earlier today.
Let me show you.
You have it up?
Yeah, so they own the assets, the traits
within this series, essentially. Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. And they kind of took Gutter Cat Gang and Bored Ape and did this mashup, and it's pretty steezy. I mean, like the style of these is pretty lit. So I know a lot of people like them.
Is the floor price 3.5 is what I'm seeing on OpenSea right now?
This
but
Gen
that's
2
Gen 2.
1 ETH, and I think there's a Gen 1 too. So
yeah, Gen 1. There's 50 of them, 3.5. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Nice. All right, I don't want to go over an hour anyway. So I know we were maybe oh, we'll have some time at the end, recap some stuff. Yeah. The only one I think is worth spending 2 minutes on before we let everyone leave. Looks rare, the halving, price fluctuation. We talked about this, the general ethos of what Looks Rare is last week some. I'm a buyer in general. I imagine everyone with the halving coming as far as the APR you'll earn on staking your looks. There was going to be a sell-off. We have seen it come down from $5 to about $3.47 last I looked. So not, I guess, surprising. Where do you think it goes from here? Do you think it's kind of more or less the correction now and it starts trickling back, or do you think there's more room to go down?
Yeah, I think most of the correction is baked in now. The next halving is not for 90 days. So this halving event is actually tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah.
And so there could be a little bit more downside, but in general, not financial advice. I would say looking to pick up looks at this low 3s, maybe high 2s if it gets their range is probably a good idea. And the next kind of couple months, I feel like should be some good staking opportunity. To your point last week, it's still a great APR, and I think a lot of people are still going to look that way. They were worried about this event, and I think it's baked in for the most part.
I'll repeat it one more time for people that didn't listen, but part of me was all right, you've had this 600+% APR for the last month or so. Are there really that many people that are like, oh man, I'm only going to get 300% now the next 90 days? Like,
Right.
it's so insane, especially if you've actually followed like how much ETH you're getting in return via trading action on the platform. Like, I haven't even considered or cared to even like, do I pull out now? Like, I just like, look, I'll take my 300% whenever they flip the switch and it halves. Like, it's just well ahead of what most people are going to be able to do anyway, daily trading, whatever you're trying to do. So I'm on board with that. I think more people will probably realize, especially if you come from like DeFi and you're staking stuff, it's like 20% is great. Like, you're getting 300%.
300%.
Like,
One
keep
more
'em there.
question here. Last week you touched on this and you mentioned it to me before, and that's in regards to you have quite a few of these Meta Hero mint passes. Okay,
I do.
The benefit of holding that is you could potentially get a core Meta Hero, which one sold yesterday for 88 ETH.
Mm-hmm.
But you have a side bet with G-Funk, and you haven't really got into the details of that. Can you tell us a little bit more about this side bet?
Sure. It's nothing crazy. I basically just told them that I will for sure whiff every single core. Like, I have 100 of these things. I ended up minting 15 of them so I could stake for POW. And this was more recently, but for a while, I mean, they're like halfway through the cores almost now. So it's starting to get sweaty. But I actually ran like a simulation. My background's in sports betting and models and projections. Regardless, anyone could really do it if they spent some time on it. But I had 100. I was like, figured out the math on each core opportunity. I was a favorite to get 2 cores. That was like the most likely scenario. The next most likely scenario was 3 cores. Then it was 1, and then it was 0, and then it was 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8 in order. So that's where we're at so far, 0. But the POW returns are pretty strong too. That I caved actually recently. I minted 10 more.
Oh, wow.
So I only have 75 mint passes. Theoretically, I should still get a core by the end of this. But every time I miss now, I'm just going to be like, I'm like, how much POW am I leaving on the table not staking the meta heroes and just using the mint pass? Also, I just think the mint pass has edge in general, like an unopened pack of cards does. So I'll there'll be some that I never open for sure. But yeah, I feel like I'm going to win the bet, but I'm going to be more tilted that I win the bet because I didn't get a core. Hopefully, I'm just
You're
wrong
gonna get a
too.
core. I still think the math favors you to get a core.
It does because so many people have been minting too that I'm not sure there's even. I could check real quick while we're just looking before we wrap it up. Was it just over 3,000 mint passes left? And maybe it's just under 3,000 now.
I'm sitting on a few of these too.
You just holding the mint pass then in general?
Yeah, I have a Meta Hero staked, Punk's Comic staked, and I have 3 mint passes. Then I got a big old gang of planets that I'm gonna, looking forward to more information on that.
Looks like there's still 3,200, so it's still over 3K, but that'll just keep shrinking. I don't know, man. 75, you'd think after 100 and something shots at it, you'd bink one, but so far no dice. By the way, what's your quick thoughts? I'm not going to speak to it. The 100 million raise for Pixel Vault news comes, everything's going like this, and then it just like goes right back down after. And I just wonder, who are the people that are like, holy crap, this is great news for Pixel Vault that's coming. I'm going to invest and pay 7.5 ETH for a mint pass and then sell it at 6 like a couple days later. Like I don't understand why you're buying it in the first place. Did they really think it was going to like run to 12 real quick and then they were going to try to flip, and that's the only reason they bought it? I'm just a little bit surprised. At the same time, there's a lot more news coming this year that'll be insane. I'm not sweating it, but it's just crazy to me that you can get one for 6 ETH now, and it was 7.5 the day before the news.
Yeah, I think you got it right. That was flipper territory. The floor on the mint passes is actually really thin. So from here to like 9.
There's only like 5, and then it's 7 ETH again. Yeah, there's not that many.
Yeah.
But
So I think it was a reasonable play for somebody to think, okay, I'm going to buy this and then I'm going to sell it. For some reason, the market didn't really appreciate like this news, in my opinion, the way that they should have. And that's okay. I think that the marketplace right now is very just all over the place, and people want fast, quick gains. And this is a more of a long-term hold. And so I think midway through this year, people who are holding mint passes or meta hero and planets, I think they're going to be pretty happy. As to right now, the market's kind of weird. I totally agree with Vivek though. And just on that, like Vivek and I, going back now to last year, like we seem to be on the same side of a lot of plays. And I think that I take, I'm happy to see that because I think he's super smart. Harvard, Jeopardy. So if I'm doing moves like Vivek, like I'll take it.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to UC Irvine.
All right, that's not bad.
Yeah, local.
Not Harvard, but it's
Not
not
Harvard.
bad.
No chance. But I think this is a good long-term play, and this $100 million, in my opinion, going into coming from people. This is the way I look at it. If the former CEO and COO of Twitter, and also another group who has a very proven track record as a professional investor, okay, if you look at the track record, Lazaro hit on Facebook, on numerous other big bets. If they're betting 100 million, I'm in too.
It's like back in the day with sports betting. It's like you just tail the people that you think are going to win long term. These guys generally win long term. Just wait more than like 3 days.
Right.
It'll probably work out. I'm with you. The network now that veers through Pixel Vault as a whole is just insane. So I'm excited. We'll wrap this up. Ham, thanks for coming in as usual. Next week, I believe we do not have a guest lined up, but we should have one for sure. I know we do have someone lined up for the following week, the 22nd. So we'll keep everyone posted, but we'll put on a show next week. If not, for sure back in 2 weeks. Until then, thanks to Lucky Trader. This is the NFT show, and we will catch you guys next time.